love that place.
Not in July. Ugh.
Can I go? All right, good evening, Clausen. It's July 14th, 2021. It's a Wednesday at 7 p.m. Calling the special meeting of City Council to order. August, if you could roll call, please.
Mayor Scripture.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Milan.
Here.
Councilmember Moffett.
Present.
Councilmember Phillips.
Here.
Councilmember Sampson.
Here.
That is a full vote, Madam Mayor.
We are floating. All right, next on the agenda, I believe there's public comment. I'm going to see if there's anybody out there in our immediate to, nope, not looking like there's anybody in the room to do public comment. Is there anybody on? No. Nope, okay. All right, then, we will close public comment and move on to the, actually, I do have a quick question. Mr. Nishay? This is a question for you. So last meeting, and shame on me, because I let this happen, we had one council member tell another council member to shut up 3 times, and I should have, but I didn't do my job very well. What is the process when someone calls point of order and it's not yielded to? What do we do? What do I do? What's the, and shame on me, I take blame, I should have, but I apologize.
Well, hopefully we can all be better about all this. Obviously, when point of order is called, you conduct a meeting. As the person that conducts the meeting, you have the authority to pursue the Robert's Rules of Order and our council rules of procedure to stop that debate and move forward with respect to the point of order. The how you conduct the meeting. So if it goes, I guess what you're asking me is in the unlikely situation when nobody agrees to listen to you as the person conducting the meeting and continues with that behavior. Yeah, technically speaking, we have, pursuant to our charter or as we have a sergeant at arms. It would be someone's staff from Chief Cervello. I don't imagine it's ever been used. I don't imagine it'll ever be utilized in the future. That's certainly
Yeah, I'm
my
not thinking that's the
Yeah.
place I want to go, so just, okay. All right, I just wondered.
I have a question now that you brought that up. We were supposed to have a workshop, and you were going to bring in, Mike, and you were going to bring in a facilitator to
Yes, sir.
teach us all how to be good people.
Well, not that.
Well, as
Not
close
that.
as we can. Whatever happened to that?
If you recall, I've had conversations about this, obviously, with a few of you individually. Mike and I are working towards making that happen. If you recall, last time I brought it up, we've had a lot of activity, period, as you will agree over the recent past that has given us a little bit of a pause in that regard. However, I am, as I told you the last time this was brought up, I wanted to do something with respect to something that is informative and useful to the 5 of you, as opposed to simply one of those Michigan Municipal League, and not to cast any aspersion towards them, but one of those seminars that can be a little boring in nature. I personally hit a little bit of a stumbling block with respect to having municipal attorneys come in and do so for a couple of different reasons. Nonetheless, I will by our next council meeting, I'll give you the plan for moving forward as far as that's concerned and maybe make some decisions. One of the issues that I ran into was the conversation the council had with respect to compensation, as opposed to what I'm finding out compensation is, the level of compensation that is sought by those that I've approached personally. Mike, I know, did some background work with respect to this as well. He had a couple ideas, but we'll come back to you with some, at the next meeting with some more specific details.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And wasn't one of the topics of that training appropriate council roles and
Yes.
that sort of thing? Yeah, okay.
Yes,
good.
ma'am.
And so it would be appropriate to, by next council meeting, all ballots should be in, right? So to invite anyone running for any of the council seats to be able to attend it would be a public thing. We had talked
It'll be
about
public.
that.
Yeah,
Yep,
it'll be
okay.
public, certainly.
Cool, cool.
All right, in that case, thank you. We will go to our item on the agenda, which I don't have, my computer's broken, so how's about someone else read that off? Oh, look, no one else has it. So I think our item on the agenda is for, go ahead.
Information and consideration of general operating millage ballot question for the November 2021 city general election ballot.
That. All right, Mr. Smith, I believe you are the information and consideration person for this.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Can you hear me?
Yes. Kathy cannot.
She cannot. Do I need to raise my volume? Maybe?
Yes.
Or
Please,
where? Oh, jeez. Share.
or as long as you speak clearly, I can read.
Okay. Let me go higher with, is that, ooh, that's loud.
Let's try in the back here.
Can't hear you, guy, just put it over the speakers.
To fingers, huh?
Fingers.
That's almost worse.
I'll try and
Okay,
speak.
August.
Just speak clearly and I'll be able to,
Actually, if you speak a little slower than normal too, I think that would help.
Put that
Yeah.
mic next to the speaker.
He's got a mic next to the speaker. I think that's what he just said.
Yeah, so is it good? I just need to enunciate and speak clearer.
please.
Okay. So thank you this evening for attending this meeting for discussion on the general operating millage proposal. Just to give you some, I can actually advance my screen. To give you some background, in February of 2012, the voters approved an additional general operating millage proposal at that time in the amount of 4.2398 mils for a period of 10 years. This was done at that time to restore city charter millage authorization back up to 15 mils. This millage over these last 10 years has been used to provide funds for general operating purposes, consisting of police, fire, public works, operations, and continuation of existing services. As of our current tax roll, if you've received your tax bill, it has been reduced to the current rate of 3.6892 due to the Headley rollback in Prop A.
Wait, I don't think you mean that. That would mean our millage is 3.6892. Don't you mean it's 15 minus 3.6892? Or
Yes, I'm
our
speaking
actual
of-
rollback is 3 point?
I'm talking just about the 4.2, not the entirety, just
Okay.
that one right there. The 4.2398 has been rolled back to 3.68. So we're at, with the additional, to your statement, the other one, the charter operating is currently at 9.3632. So we're still well under the 15 mils. So we are incorporated, of course, under the Home Rule City Act, 1909 of PA 279, which dictates the rules in which we operate, stating that our current charter millage rate is 15 mils.
You just gotta turn it up, I can emo.
Yeah, you keep going away from your mic and that you go fade in and out.
The refuse, library, DDA, bond debt, and other debt millages do not count against the charter limits. Over the past 10 years, the city has continued to operate with a reduced full-time staff while continuing to provide the same services. Since 2000, to give you some information, we have gone from 62 down to 48 full-time employees. Over this time, employees have seen increases to healthcare costs. We have also done away with pensions to new hires to decrease the legacy costs that we've had. So what could happen without the levy? Since the city has only one combined general operating millage fund, every department could see cuts or elimination of services. Police and fire department cuts would mean less police officers and firefighters to patrol or help Clausen on each shift and therefore reduce public safety. DPW personnel perform numerous day-to-day activities that the people of Clausen have come to count on and expect, such as snow plowing, the leaf pickup, tree trimming, street cleaning, and others could be on the chopping block with this potential loss of revenue.
Aren't they a separate act, separate millage
Then what?
than the general fund?
You mean,
This ties into the general fund. This is part of our revenues.
Separate millage for that, for leaf
Yes.
pickup and garbage.
These are just all services they were examples. As far as our current millage rates being levied as of July 1, they're all listed on the right. Those are the items. So we do have the operating that's currently, these are the current rates that were approved that just went out on your tax bills. stating that, yep, the rubbish, operating, library, bond debt. The amount of revenues generated through property taxes and all funds is 9.4 million. And this has been a 1% increase or $119,512 over the prior fiscal year. So the city of Clawson levied these property taxes. Again, were included on the summer tax bills, which you should have just received in July. So two issues that always come up that for reducing millage rates are Proposal A of 1994, which amended the state constitution to change the property taxation base from SEV to taxable value, or TV. So the annual increase in taxable value to each parcel is limited by the parcel's SEV, or the rate of inflation, or 5%, which is less. So the city's allowable inflation rate multiplier that is used, that was used in 2021-22, is 1.4%. And then the other rollback that we have, Headley requires a local unit of government to reduce its millage when annual growth on existing property is greater than the rate of inflation. So as a consequence, the local unit millage rate gets rolled back. So our fraction that we did for the millage rollback was with the calculation. Originally, we were only allowed to, back in 2020, the other operating millage was at 9.57. And due to all of the reduction fractions and the rollback, like I stated, we are now levying 9.3632 for that one. And then the current one that we're under discussion tonight, back in 2020, it was at 3.7707. And then with all of the allowable rollbacks, it goes down to 3.6892. So that's where we're at right now with the current one that we're under discussion. So as you can see, some taxable value history. From the graph to the right, we are just now attaining the taxable values that we saw back in 2008. Clearly, we've gone through the Great Recession, and it has taken 13 years now to get us back to the levels we once saw back in the late 2000s. So it's taken that long to kind of ratchet back up in our taxable value that are now under. So I know the question has come up to me, what about ARP funding? Why can't they be used to offset this expiring levy? And speaking to many financial advisors, and Kelly and I have spoken, this is short-sighted, as these funds are a one-time federal funding opportunity that have very specific guidelines. And while we can use them for certain infrastructure, water and sewer, broadband, and other items that we're still going to be discussing, we cannot use this to offset merely budget cuts. So we have other needs in the city that these funds can be used for when we work through the process that we're going to follow in the fall with the Planning Commission for the CIP process as we once we receive those funds and have those discussions. So how much will it cost? Here's a simple example for a Clawson resident to show the impact on the residential taxpayer. So these were just providing 3 time frames. In 2008, that was the highest we were at. The average taxable value was $75,000. In 2012, it was $53,250. And in speaking with our assessor, Travis, from Oakland County, he said our current average is $68,248. So to give you some baseline numbers on what that would mean, there's some of the information based on that. It's per mill. So the millage rate is levied per $1,000 of taxable value. So we'd be dividing that to find out what our base rate is and what your tax would be on the average taxable value home. So in 2021, the total, if we went up to the entire, we're able to completely levy the 15 mills based on the rates we have now. As you see with the multiplier there, we'd end up having $1,000.23 as the tax for this option. That's based on the average taxable value. Of course, there's other variations in home pricing, but that's the average.
Mike, I have
Yes.
a question.
Sure.
If you could go back to that previous page, it's got 2021 general operating taxes. It's got 2 different ones. What is option number 1 versus the regular?
Which page?
This one is currently what we have. We're not touching that one. We're touching this operated voting one. This is the one that we're discussing this evening. I just wanted to show you that this goes into our charter allowable 15 mils. So this one was originally back at 15 when that's what we're allowed under our charter. And since Prop A and everything, it's been basically rolled back to 9.36. So in 2012, the council back then, and Mark had discussed to do a Headley override, which was this additional general operating. At that time, it was 4.2 to bring us back up to the 15 allowable. And then since then, even over the last 10 years, we've seen all the rollbacks continually bringing it down. So that's what that is per our charter, we were allowed 15, which originally back then it was 15, but that one eventually went down to 9.3. We moved in and said, hey, we need to make sure we have more funding coming in. And so the voters decided to do an additional operating Headley override to bring us back up to 15 back in 12. I hope that makes sense.
Okay.
So just to continue with this, currently the average taxpayer is paying the following taxes. So this is our current rate. We use that average taxable value, the 68,000, times our current rate that was just on the taxes of the 3.6892. So just for that alone, the average taxable value is paying $251.78. If you decided to raise it up to the maximum allowable, which is 5.6368 as a proposed rate, they would in essence be paying $384.70. So that increased additional tax would be $132.92 per year based on the average taxable value home. If you want to maintain the current rate, of course, with the Headley rollback that we're at right now of 3.6892, our projected revenue is 1.5 million. Again, as an option, if you wanted to increase the current rate to the allowable 15 mils, which is that 5.63, we would have the projected revenue of 2.3 million. Of course, all this taking into account that in 2022, Headley rollback rates will also roll these rates back again. So these are based on presumptions right now on the 2021 average taxable value. So the reason we're meeting tonight is because administration, Kelly and we need to see what options you want to go with to discuss. So you have option one, which is propose a levy in the amount up to the charter limit, which is 5.6368, which would bring us back up to the total 15 mils. Option two is to propose a certain amount as decided by council. Nothing precludes you from stating you want to do, say, 3.5 or 2 point, whatever that amount is. And speaking to the bond attorney, that's what he stated. Nothing precludes you from deciding on a different number, but you can go up to 5.6368. Option three, of course, is do nothing and plan for a budget hit of approximately 1.5 million or more in the next budget cycle. Because this is the last time that you'll see that millage on your taxes. It is expiring. So information to remember, our millage bond counsel that I speak to is at Miller Canfield, who has provided the legal language for all millage proposals in the past. Stated he can have a resolution read as early as the July 20th meeting if you decide this evening. Just to provide you some upcoming dates to remember, July 20th, you have a regular meeting. August 4th, you'll have a regular meeting. And of course, August 10th is the deadline to submit ballot proposals for that. So in conclusion, and just kind of providing a little brief background, of course, the loss of this general operating millage would cause a huge loss to many services within the city as we use to offset our general operating fund, since it is a revenue that comes in. It is up to council to decide, and that's what we would like to hear this evening, what your consensus is and what you would like to do. So it's choose which option as far as millage rate, one of those three options, the time frame you would like. Most of the time with these things, they're going to be in a 10-year or 20-year. You can, of course, decide to do in perpetuity as well if you so choose. Those are the options. Most of the time, because of this millage, you would not go for a shorter term. A lot of townships do that, but in cities, it's generally 10 or 20 years that you look at. And just an FYI, in talking to them, it is not a renewal as the current millage has expired with this tax year. And due to the statute, the millage proposal language must say new additional millage. It cannot say renewal in the actual language. So that is the way the statute reads. So that's a brief overview, and I guess that's the now it's kind of up for discussion of what options you would like to discuss this evening. If you have
Can I
any
ask
questions?
some math clarity questions first?
Sure.
Was that, did you say something? Oh, okay, thanks. So I'm sorry, you don't have the page numbered, so I can't. On the millage levy options continued, I guess. I guess I can't show you the page either. I don't know if you can see us, but like this one.
It's like the third page back, from the back.
The one that has your average taxable value times the current rate and all that stuff? That one?
This one?
Okay, so, so first question, what's our median taxable value right now?
Stop share. Hold on. Just got it.
I can answer it, Mike. It's 63,870.
So half of our homes are the taxable value is higher and half's lower?
Yeah, median is, 63,870. That's what Kelly said.
Okay, all right. And for the rates, and I understand I get what I just want to clarify the language. So when you say current millage levy, you mean the current override portion, which is 3.6892, right?
Correct.
Because the total, obviously, as you just said, we'd be, there could be any rate, but if you simply go with what you're saying, so the total is actually at 9.36, which is the current, plus the override amount of 3.689. So the total is 13.05 mils, which is where you got that. Well, I guess that's the part I'm confused. I guess the difference is is the difference 2 points? That doesn't look right.
This one? Am I still sharing?
No, you're not.
Okay. Is it this one?
No, a different one. The one after that, I think. Yes, there you go. So the 3.689 is what yeah, that's the one that it's currently rolled back to, and it has to be what you just said a minute ago. It can't be a, what'd you say a minute ago? It can't be a temporary levy? No, I don't remember what word you used.
It's not, the language can't say renewal. It just has to
So
say new
so
op.
it can't be a renewal, it has to be, okay. And
Yes.
then, so what was the 5.6368? Is that,
That would be based on that plus the 9.3632 to bring us back to the 15 to make it whole again, if you will. That's the maximum allowable that you can have on the ballot for the charter rate.
right?
So you could go anywhere from that number down, if that's what your choice was, that we just wanted to present this option stating that if you went to the highest level allowable, this is what the cost would be.
Okay, I got the math to work, okay. All right, so then the real, and I'm just gonna go with the numbers you got. I understand you were putting different numbers out there, but I'm gonna go with the numbers you have here. So this is just that, the override amount, if you were to add it, if you go with the 3.6, it comes up to 13.0524, and if you go with the 5.6, like you said, that takes it back to the 15, which is the charter maximum, correct?
Correct.
So then the actual, and going with the average, the actual amount of operating property taxes, not all the other stuff, but the actual amount of operating would be based on this average. If I just went with the lower one, 1305. oh, I did those numbers, somewhere around, I'm trying to figure out per house. What is it per, if you just add, you come to the 13? Because I'm still not getting this to work, and that's probably because I'm trying to talk and calculate
Is it-
at the same time.
This rate right here, so that would be the average tax. Is that what you're saying? If you brought it back, the current rate?
If you
Which is what-
took the 9.3632 that we've been rolled back to now, add to it the 3.689, okay, so we want to take us up to the 5.6. All right, so that goes up to 13, right?
This is our current tax rate that the entire general operating that they're paying, which is the 9.3632 plus the 3.6892.
Okay,
Just
that's,
524.
and then to do the override, it takes it up to that next number?
If you wanted to vote and do the 56368, that's where you get the 15. So I wanted to show the differential that if you just kept it as is, this is what the number would be. And then if you went up to 15, this is what the tax would be.
Okay. All right, I got you, okay. Thanks, I just wanted to make sure I was understanding the numbers. Thank you.
Yeah. So if you wanted to keep it at the current rate, that's where we would be at. We would still end up having a revenue of the current rates, of course, because the Headley could roll that back again next year. But the current projected revenue, based on the taxable value, would be 1.5 million. If we kept it at the current rate, what taxpayers are used to this year. If you wanted to go anywhere in between that range of 3.6 or 5.6, there would be, a slight increase, but then we have to always think about the rollback, could then roll it back. So, it's projections. It's just trying to figure out, if we could project what the rate of inflation and what, your home values were going to be, that would be, would be
I think I
millions.
was getting a little bit confused because you had said earlier in the presentation that it would create a $1.5 million cut, and this
We'd
here
have to
says
find
current
out.
rate is 1.5, it would be a 1.5 million. I think I got confused. I'm like, wait, that wouldn't be the cut because that's what it is. And I think I
Yeah.
was getting confused because the two numbers accidentally matched, maybe?
Yeah.
Right, I mean, the 1.5.
It might have been a statement on my part. It's just, that's what we wanted to show, what would the current
No,
rate.
no, there's nothing wrong. Like I said, I think it's two different numbers, but because they were both 1.5, I was confusing them. That's all. All right, so the difference between, is that, okay.
I just had a quick question. If I could clarify some of the thing that you're saying, Mike, is you keep saying that if we keep it at, you're talking about if we write the language such that it keeps it at versus writing the language such that it takes it back up to 15, right? Because there's no keeping it at because it's expiring, correct?
Correct. I just mean based on,
I
you
just
got
wanted
your
to
tax.
clarify that
Yeah.
the issue is we need to do something, right? Otherwise, it all goes away.
Correct.
Okay.
I guess that's part of what I was getting confused. That's where the 1.5 million is the same number.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, that's why I was getting confused, because you were coming at it from two different directions. I'm like, wait, what, okay.
One was if we don't do it, then we're going to be short 1.5.
The 1.5 million that
Right.
is if we maintain the current rate.
Right.
But we
Correct.
can't maintain the current rate because the way we are right now, you're saying we have to it's either all or nothing, is kind of what you're saying. I mean, I understand you said we could put any rate in between, but we would have to do some rate because it's either all or nothing.
Correct. Yeah. If you don't do anything, then
It just
it's
goes to 9.3 whatever, 9.36 minus whatever the rollback is in 22, right?
correct.
Okay, that's what all right.
I guess I would like to see how you're going to explain that to the public, to the citizens.
Right.
Because
that's the-
obviously, they're not going to see anything this
it's getting across to them that what we just said, right? If they vote no on everything, then that's a bigger hit. It's not, it has to be postured as an increase or whatever you said in that thing, but so we need to be strategic about what number we pick so that it doesn't scare everybody to vote no.
It's kind of like this levy or whatever assessment that we have right now is 3.68292. That one is going away, and to replace it, we're
Yeah,
looking at this assessment.
Correct. In 2022, we need to do, you have the option before you to do something. And if you don't do anything, then the potential revenue hit is as we stated. So I wanted to present to you and state that what taxpayers are paying right now is 3.6892, which is that extra. You can go up to 5.63 if you so choose, but you could go anywhere in between or whatever number you strategically want to pick. Like you said, when you look at it, yeah, it could potentially be an increase. So yeah, how do you, like you stated, how do you present that? It's about presentation and, stating what it is. Because of course we don't want to talk about, major increases. But these are things, this is real life. Would be a
I guess
projected-
that's where I'm a little, because this is, to me, it's a little bit misleading, because what we're really saying is that however, whatever, what we would be saying is your rate, you have three, let's go with that. Your rate, if nothing happens, is 9.36, forget about 2022 for conversation, 9.36. Your rate, if we pick a number, and say it's the 3.68 that we have now, would be 13.05 times your average taxable value. And your rate, if we go all the way up to 15, is 15 times the average taxable value. I mean, well, not times, but times your house value. So, but to say 251 and 384, to someone who's not sitting here like I am running through the calculations and trying to, it looks like we're saying, oh yeah, you're paying 251 now, and you would only be paying, it just seems a little disingenuous because it's not reflecting the full rate.
Well, from a layperson's point of view, I understand this. No offense, better than what I'm understanding you say.
Well, our rate
'Cause I
right
know
now
your
is
numbers are going
9.36.
all over
I know, but
here.
think about it right now. Your tax bill says, actually, just go to this form. Just go back to what he provided us up right here, this one. Go to this one. This is the easiest way to do it. So right now, operating is 9.3632. And really, this is more along the lines of what your property tax bill looks like, this chart. So our operating right now is 9.362. If you go down to operating voted, it's that's his 3.689. Cross that off, because that's what we're saying, is that if no number gets put on there, it's now only 9.362. But any number that, these two numbers together are what everybody's getting assessed. 9 point right now. So to say this is your taxing at 3.68, no, actually it's 9.632 plus.
Well, that's the way it
3.6.
has to be presented then.
Because it's 13 or 15, not $380 on that. It's actually 15 times, using our average thing. Do you see what I'm saying? It makes it, the way it's calculated in front of us makes it look like, oh, we're just talking about a 3.6 or a 5.6 mil. And no, we're talking about a 13 point something
No,
or.
because the 9's already built in. That's not-
3.6.
It's not
Yeah.
going away, right?
How
There
can
is
9
no
be
ex-
part of 3.6?
9.36 is already built in. It's a non-renewable. We don't reassess, we don't change that number.
Yes, it'll roll back.
That's why I presented, I wanted to basically drill down and just show this first screen, showing the two options, and then just basically discuss these two. Believe me, we will present that if you do go to the full amount, we will state it's based on 15 mils, which is that's that difference right there.
When was the last time we were
Just for
ever at 15
presentation.
mils?
I would have to research that.
2012, that you say right here.
No, because even then it was, it went,
Gotcha.
it brought us back up to, it's been a while.
I have a question here.
Essentially, as soon as you approve the override, it gets reduced. Yeah, go ahead.
My question is, right now, we're at the 3.682992, right? And the proposed rate is 5.6. That maxes it out. So this is where we are today. The next figure we got is maxed out. What do you need, Mike, to run the city? You know, I know one's where we are today and one's pie in the sky and it's everything. What do we need in between them to run the city?
Our budget was based on current rate. I mean, we have a fund balance, but then you have to look at what are the long-term plans. So this takes into account, you know, are we able to do some of the other projects that you want to do and start pulling from that? So, I mean, we're basing everything. I mean, Kelly's looked at some of the projected, I don't know if she's, you know, stated in the,
To keep everything status quo, what number do you need?
that's why I put the 3.6892.
That's all you need.
I mean,
Keep everything
if
status
you
quo.
want to start, yes, to keep everything status quo, yes, to answer you.
How often does this millage rate get changed?
Every year. You mean the
Every year?
rollback?
Yeah.
Rollbacks every year, they calculate
Okay.
it and send it out and tell them what it is.
So whatever we do this year can change next year? Okay.
Well, and your comment about the status quo, that's for today, and what we put on the ballot, we are setting a period of time, 10 years, 20 years, so we need to not just take care of the immediate, right? We need to take and consider what we need for whatever period of time we make this for, right?
Correct. And that's where, I mean, you could look at if you do a 20-year, I'm just stating as an option, you know, if you do the higher level, by the time you're into the, you know, 15 years or something, you could be rolled back to 3. You know, we don't know how that's going to be affected over time. That's why.
I'm not interested in doing anything totally long-term, just because things are so changing.
So you presented 10, 20 in perpetuity. Can we do
Yeah.
lower? Could we do 5?
You can. That was the, you know, I spoke to the attorney about that. He said most often you don't see cities doing that just because of the way because then you got to think about, then you have another election in 5 years. And then you are going back out that if you do a 10-year, you know, you have 10 years with that. Again, that is completely up to you as council, though, if you want to do 5 years.
I was just curious. I was looking for marketing, you know.
Oh, sure.
What election do we have in 5 years?
Well, there's always
We always have
election every year.
Well,
I mean, there's
I know,
always
but-
one.
Yeah, it just depends on when it expires and if it's on an odd year or an even year, you know, you piggyback on a federal election or if it's on a city one. It's just more of the time it takes to get out to the residents. But again, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, that's where we want to try and get some feedback from you as to where you're at, because he can present the language at one of the next meetings if you need more discussion on it, more time to think about it. Again, like I stated, we have until August 10th. We do have 2 regular meetings in the interim, and of course, you can always do another special meeting if you so choose.
I have another question. So this is defined as operating, right?
Yes.
So what are the parameters around operating?
It goes to the general fund. We use it for,
Whatever
Consistent-
we approve in the budget,
correct,
it isn't paid for by something else.
correct.
So is there any way to put language that a certain percentage would be segregated for something specific like the roads or infrastructure, or to say, like, is it, that's my question. You get what I'm saying.
With this question, no. I did speak to him about that. There are other options available to us. I spoke to him, I think in 2000, I'd have to think about when we redid 14 Mile and Main Street. There were MTF bonds that were issued that the council voted on. I don't know if Kathy, if you were on council at that time when you,
It was more like 2005 and 6.
What's the
okay,
acronym, Mike? Try not,
Uh,
MTF,
MTF, Michigan Transportation Fund.
thank you.
So we do have the option, to do capital improvement bonds for roads. We do have capacity for that. He did talk about those things. that would basically be the earmark for infrastructure. He said another option that, of course, you see some cities doing is doing a dedicated millage per se for infrastructure, which is outside of what this is. Because currently this is the language that it has to be for this. We were able to get general operating, but you can't have this heavy rollback based on that. It would have to be a separate and distinct millage that would, just like we did with the park bond, park improvement, you'd have a road millage, very similar.
To Councilmember Moffat's point, when, it doesn't necessarily have to get earmarked in them, but you could, I think, maybe if I expand on her question, you could say, okay, making numbers up, well, we'll do 1.5 operating, but we want to approve a bond of 1% for infrastructure. And then, so you don't get up to that amount, but a portion of it is, I'm going to go with earmarked, a portion of it's earmarked for that thing because it's a separate, but we took it out of that amount, is what I'm saying, to keep property taxes in line. Is that, Councilmember Moffett? Yeah.
Yes, I thank you for putting that eloquently. Yes, to your point, to both your points, yes, that's what you can do. Because when you approve the budget, you can say out of that, this millage we're getting, we're going to put 100,000, 200,000, whatever it is, a certain percentage towards infrastructure.
I feel like the community might find it more palatable if they knew that there was some sort of obligation to address some of their pain points.
That's a valid point.
So what you're saying is like, do the 5 point, whatever it is, but say X amount of that is, say, infrastructure, just for the sake of discussion.
Yeah.
So we're still asking them for the same amount, but we're letting them know part of that is getting put over here for this specific purpose, not just to pay wages or.
I mean, but you have to specifically pass something that says, we're approving debt of 1 mil,
Right,
whatever.
that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
you know, so we
But
could
it's not
do.
set aside, it's specifically
Well,
approving.
yeah, I mean,
I mean, you have to be careful with that, yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it 2 ballot questions?
I don't think so, that could be
Yeah, no, it
one.
would be 2, it has to be
2
2.
ballot questions. Well,
have to
That's
be
the
2.
only way
Would
you
it
can
have to be 2,
guarantee it
Rennes?
be used.
I think Councilmember Sampson is right, it would have to be 2.
Yeah.
Correct. It'd have to be 2. Unless you vote in the next budget that next cycle during the CIP process, that's what you state in the next budget. We're going to be doing this as part of our capital improvement plan. But yes, it would be, to your statements, yes, it would have to be 2 proposals.
So it would be like, the first proposal would be that we're going to do the millage rate at the 5 point, whatever it is. And then the next question would be of that 5.8 or 5 point.
It has to be 2 separate things.
That's what I said, the next question.
No, the first one has to be 2.8, and the second one is 1 point, or 1. That you're taking it
Oh,
out.
okay, I see what you're saying.
That's
So-
what Councilmember Moffat's saying.
okay.
Yeah. Well, and I'm saying too, we're
I
both
guess I
saying.
was doing it a different way in my head, but
Well, I think that's where she
But if we were,
started.
if
And
we weren't segregating, we were going to say 5, but if we're going to do 2, we would do 4 and 1 or something like that.
okay.
Correct.
How
Gotcha.
specific can you be on what the earmarked funds would be used for? Because I think most people would not be comfortable just hearing you say they're going to be for infrastructure, they're going to be for road improvements. They would want to know what specific road improvements and what specific infrastructure projects would be coming.
Well, that's, you'd have to have, you'd have to have that plan in place. To have the capital improvement plan, I guess, move forward quicker with the planning commission to have the actual road plan in place.
Well, we
But
already
that-
have, we've had meetings and we have a priority list. Can we not just address those?
What happens if something major happens, like a sinkhole or something?
But that would happen anyhow, and that would have to come out of your operating budget
We
anyhow,
always
right?
find money for those,
Right,
right? We don't have a choice,
I mean, that would
Do we have
happen
a lot
anyhow.
of those?
apparently.
Well, it was the first thing I could think of.
She's like, we always spend money for those. I'm like, wait,
No,
there's
but
like more than one?
there are certain things, if something comes up that it's an emergency, you find money for them, whether it's your municipality or your home. You have to, because you don't have a choice.
And that's the whole thing, right, is that we're promising, it's like taking care of your house, right? You're going to buy the new garage door, but then the refrigerator breaks, so you got to do the refrigerator. We're saying we're gonna specifically set money aside to really buy the garage door, right? I mean, we're
But that also goes to the policy, and I don't know what it is right now, but the policy of what is our minimum rainy day fund, and what is maybe a maximum rainy day fund, and that kind of thing. So that's the fridge in the rainy
Well-
day fund.
Well, but the rainy day fund happens whether or not, I mean, you gotta,
No, you have to set a policy on what that amount would be.
I get that, but the rainy day fund would, regardless if we segregate it out and say we're gonna do part of infrastructure, you still gotta have the rainy day fund. I mean, it's
Right.
not there, it's a whole different subject of addressing an emergency. You gotta have an emergency plan, whether you have money set aside for big projects or not. You gotta know how to address the emergencies.
Right, that's the rainy day fund, and you can set certain amounts if you think the emergencies might be.
But that's a different topic from trying to segregate funds out to address something like infrastructure. I mean, it's right, you're right, we need to do that, but that's a different subject.
I
That would
think
be
that
more
the
of a
la-
budget.
Yeah, I think the language, though, well, no, it's one of the policies, the financial policies. I think the language we have to be careful is we're not setting aside, what we're doing is designating mills. We're saying we're going to do this much mills for operating and this much mills for infrastructure via a bond debt or whatever. Because we're not just segregating amounts we receive, we're literally setting different mills for those things.
If we identify, what Councilwoman said, if we identify the projects we're doing, when they're done, what happens at millage?
But
Well,
that's,
that's-
we're approving a bond.
Yeah.
So you would know what the projects were, how much you're going out for a bond to pay for those, and what does that bond represent as a mill? So, for example, you already know, if you look at what's in front of you. So, for example, previously, the park debt's a perfect example. That was a bond. Sidewalk debt, that was a bond. They figured out how much those sidewalks were going to cost, and then decided on how much they needed and assigned a mill to it.
So if we max out today at 15, or we shoot at 15 mils, and then we want to do another.
You have to
bond,
do
we
an
can't.
additional bond debt.
Can we do it?
Yeah, the bond, any debt is separate from the mills, or the millage rate in our charter. That's an operating mill. So any bond debt would be separate. The bond debt also doesn't get rolled back. It's set until you pay off the bond, essentially.
Isn't that basically show up as a special assessment on your taxes if you have a
Right.
bond?
Can't remember, I think it actually shows up as
Yeah.
a debt.
Kelly know that.
Yeah. Or Stacy would know it. I think. So, yeah, but that.
As a
doesn't
special
get rolled back.
assessment.
Probably it does means two things. Does it or doesn't it?
No, I'm pretty sure it shows up as a special assessment.
Well, because there's special assessment districts, and that's a whole different thing than a bond. That's a whole different tax category.
But I'm saying on your tax bill.
Yeah, but
Like
special,
when I call up public records on a house.
it says special
It
assessment
says
for all of the
special
bonds.
no. Certain ones will have special assessments, certain ones won't. And each city does it differently.
No, there's actually a very specific definition of a special assessment. It's a thing. It's so, and then bond is a thing. They're different.
I don't know, I'll have
We
to look
we
into that.
generically refer to things as, oh, we're going to do a special assessment for this bond because it's language we can relate to, but there's actual technical legal difference between a special assessment district or a special assessment thing and a bond, and operating.
So where are we at?
We're in chambers.
Ask them.
I'm in my basement. So I guess would you like different options presented to you? Again, we have time. At the July 20th meeting, come to you. I can talk to our bond attorney. He even stated that PFM, who is our financial advisor who has helped with many capital bonds that we've had, I could see if their availability over the next two meetings. You could ask them some of these questions that you have about bonds and our capacity for doing other things like that, if you would like to get more information.
I personally would like that. I can't see us, I mean, I theoretically get the need that to, you know, to renew the, or it's not renew, but put it back in place and have the money. But I also can't see us selling, hey, we just need more operating funds without us addressing things that we've heard citizens be concerned about over the years. And so we need to kind of do both, in my mind, say, hey, you know, we need to keep the ship afloat, but we also need to, you know, say that we have a plan to address some of the fundamental things that need to be addressed. And we're making provisions financially for it.
Can I explain that, Kathy, a little better? A special assessment, and you can have a special assessment bond, but a special assessment is specific only to those who benefit. So for example, you would not have a special assessment road bond because that would mean that only Councilmember Moffett can drive on Drian because she lives there and she paid the property tax for, or the bond debt for it. You would have a general bond debt because anybody can drive on that road. So that's the difference. So it is actually, there's a technical difference. So for a lot of our infrastructure, because it would benefit the whole city or, you know, whatever, that would not necessarily, the roads especially would not be a special assessment.
So it'd just be
bond, or
part of the,
It would just be a bond.
yeah.
Yeah, and one of the different types of bonds. So yeah, sorry, did that help a little bit?
Would it be a bond that has to be used for Drian? No, I'm just saying that, you know.
No, it's going to buy me that garage door.
You can say, we said we're going to do sidewalks, and we set out the map of the sidewalks that are
Yeah.
going to be done. So, yeah, you can do however you're going to do that. Sure, you can say it's only for, what's that, Pacer score 5 and above roads or below, or however the worst ones are, or whatever. I mean, you can do whatever.
The school's doing it right now.
Yeah, exactly. So you can do whatever you want. I mean, but how far you're going to drill that down is another question. So, by the way, I hate it when we do this. The DDA millage is not on all the residents. It's only on certain businesses. Looks a little misleading. And we include that often, but it's really only applicable to everything else. Everybody might pay, but the DDA is only certain businesses in that district. Sorry, off topic, I just saw it.
So what we need from them at our next meeting is verbiage as to how they're going to present this.
And variety of,
Variety of verbiage, and
Calculations.
we also need the explanation of what the extra is going to be used for. And then with that being said, we had better plan on getting an assessment of which roads.
We have one, though. We had one just before COVID started. Remember we had that meeting?
we?
We have that.
So take that and make sure that's available so people know that we have it.
Well, I guess to your point, I mean, some of them could be worse, but, but, I mean, we have a starting point, and, you know.
Well, we already know which roads are bad, so we just have to go and see how much badder,
How much
worse
better?
are they.
Right. But we have that rating too on, I mean, we have at least that from, and I think they had just redone that in 2020 when we got it. So it's,
I don't remember that far back.
but,
2020, isn't
yeah, but, so it's most 2 years old. I mean,
Well, it's not like any of the roads got magically better.
right. But it was COVID, right? No one drove, right?
Well, the key would be how much those projects would cost and how much we could actually accomplish with the money that we would bring in. What the impact would be.
Right. I mean, we're not going to be able to do all the roads in the city, but I get sad, frustrated, annoyed that we haven't done anything, and I think the citizens feel the same way. So at least we could at least start taking a step towards making some sort of plan to start addressing it, to, you know, at least start, you know.
Yeah, because there are a couple roads that I go down and my back teeth clash together. You
Yeah,
know.
someone was telling me, yeah, I mean, I regularly hear that, but someone was telling me about one road that was even worse than Drian is.
we also can't forget, we're talking about the roads now because that's where we went, but we also can't forget we have issues with our sewage infrastructure, well, at least to the extent of the drainage, the flood issue, the fact that if we have another one that, that bad and it happens again, I think. you were the
Well,
one
that goes
said
hand in
Mr.
hand. They said
Newshine.
that in that meeting that we had just before COVID. They talked about how it's not just doing the roads, it's when you take up the roads, you do everything under it too. That's why I said infrastructure, not roads, right? I mean, it's the whole thing.
Unfortunately, those, and that's why you have to actually sit down and compare them, because there is a map of which parts of our sewer systems and water lines have been patched together and are high on the list that need to simply be replaced, and those don't necessarily, a lot of them do, because they were taken care of with the roads, but they don't all necessarily correlate with the road priority.
Right.
But there were also some sewer lines that were sealed off when they were redoing the roads that should have never been sealed off.
That need to be, that's what I'm saying, there's things out, they don't necessarily correlate. There will be correlation, but,
Yeah.
which, to your point, it's infrastructure, all
Right,
of it.
but until we start putting earmarking some money, we're not going to ever be able to do it. So we need to just start, at least take a step in that direction to try and, I mean,
I think it's difficult, though, to earmark money if you just say, we're going to do this bond, but you really have to understand what your priorities are and what the bond's going to spend money on, because that gets written into the bond in heavy detail, right, Mr. Smith?
Yes, you need to know exactly what a list of the items. So what I'm hearing then is you want a couple options presented to you at the next meeting. Again, don't have to decide at the 20th, but provide some more information on potential verbiage. I heard two options, infrastructure and or the actual general operating. Is that what I'm hearing correctly?
that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Okay.
And keep
I
in
don't-
mind, the capital improvement plan that planning does is not all encompassing of all capital improvements. In fact, it doesn't encompass your roads and your sewers. So that conversation doesn't even actually happen as part of, the capital improvement is more about, your buildings, your parks, that kind of stuff, but not so much the roads and the infrastructure. So that really is a separate conversation that doesn't involve planning, and it actually does just involve council. And then you marry the two when they're done as an overall capital improvement plan, and you prioritize, the components within it.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
if we're going to do a special assessment or whatever the other one's going to be for roads and infrastructure, I'd like us to direct the administration to bring a plan with actual streets and.
But that's what, we have that.
I know.
Oh.
But you know what? The cost of construction went up. Some things have gone up 753%. So them figures are probably pretty low.
It was pretty expensive to have that plan done, though. I mean, we have a plan to
Still
redo
a
it.
starting point, though.
Yeah, it's,
I guess maybe the question is, how much does it need to be updated, and how
Well, it's going to have to be something
much does
because
it cost? Well, I don't disagree,
even a 2x4.
but we don't have to start from scratch.
No.
Right.
Just, they can take it to the engineering firm and say, that, you guys got new numbers for concrete, you got new numbers for 2x4s that make a form, and, I mean, all that stuff went up considerably this year. So we need some more, not exactly closer to, and actually have some streets in there, so we can tell people that these are the streets, so they, since I've been on council, we keep talking about fixing the streets, and I haven't heard really any name except Dreon. And,
It is pretty bad.
it is one of the
Well, yeah,
worst
but,
rated
it's-
streets. They said that in the presentation, if you recall. So it's not because I live there, it's because that's what they had listed in the presentation.
But they need to lay out the streets so people can see, and they need to
Right.
make sure that, we may go ask for 1 mil and needed 3 because the cost of construction went up so much.
Well, we could probably just get a trend to apply, right? A 3%, 6% trend to apply to what the numbers were given before to give us a ballpark. And that should be an easy phone call that someone could make to
I would like
whoever
to
did
see
that.
the overlay of under infrastructure to over infrastructure, and where the priorities overlap and where they don't, because I think that's how we prioritize.
I think that was in the presentation that we had, though, two years ago, or whenever that was, yeah.
Might be right. I
Yeah,
mean,
because it was.
I don't have it memorized.
Yeah, I mean, there was, because I specifically remember him talking
do
about
remember they
those types
talked
of
about
things,
sewage
right,
and
yeah.
stuff, but I
And
don't-
he had a list, he had a hit list of what we needed to do in that presentation. And we probably have it somewhere, in your stacks of
Yeah,
stuff or
well,
whatever to
we
take a
just
look
gotta go
at.
back to
but
that meeting.
Because we were given
Packet.
it, yeah, or it was
It was in the packet, so it would be a meeting, so we could just go back and grab it.
Yeah, but we're given those books, remember they were bound books?
Right.
Let me look
And I
at my
do have
drawer at
mine.
home.
I
Yeah,
have
I was going to
mine.
say, I
I
must.
know, I have mine.
Have
I know
mine
where it
too.
is. Thank you for
I have a
reminding.
drawer with
You're
all
right.
those little packets.
I have mine too, but the figures are going to be the different one.
Yeah, and I think what engineering said at the time, and I think it's a valid point, is that, we have some that are high priority now, but those who are medium priority 2 years ago are probably, so some reassessment makes a lot of sense.
Right.
So maybe digging that report out, Mike, and reminding us, I mean, we can remind ourselves, but we're not the professionals, so maybe reminding us, somebody can do a little bit of a overlap, or how about like a recap, and maybe to the points that we just heard, what might be that, what did you say?
A trend,
Milan?
just-
Percentage increase or something? Whatever word you just said. But yeah, what might be that factor that you're talking about going up?
Yeah,
What
but-
might be, yeah,
I'm sure the engineering firm already knows the factor.
right, but they can explain it to us, is what I'm saying. A
Isn't-
recap and update.
Well, I think the thing to keep in mind is we do need that information from them because none of us are schooled in infrastructure or roads or anything like that. We don't have a clue as to cost and stuff like that. So getting that from them, right from the horse's mouth, is beneficial, even if it is a repeat performance. 2 years can make a lot of difference.
Yeah, and at this time, I've spoken to Scott Lockwood and to the other Mike Smith, to see if they can present at the 20th or at the 4th. So that would marry both of these conversations that we're having. And I do have that document. I believe we sent it out, and we'll send it out again. And that's a good idea to overlay that. And I'm sure Mike has that information as well.
Cool.
Anything else? Any other direction for,
Madam Mayor, make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
roll call, please?
It's Mayor Pro Tem Milan,
Yes?
Councilmember Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Phillips,
Yes.
Councilmember Sampson, Mayor Scripture.
Yes.
We are adjourned.